Is it on? Okay. Very good. Well, thank you all for coming. I have to say that libraries have always held a special place in my heart. Starting when I got my first library card, I couldn't wait to get all the books that I'd been eyeing for quite a while. But when I arrived at the circulation desk and the librarian said, "You're not really going to read all those books, are you?" They were piled so high you couldn't even see me. Well, I said, "You bet I am." And I did. Decades later, I set my first novel, Saving Grace, wrote most of it in a library in New York City. In my latest thriller, my character, Guy Kingship, loves libraries and loves reading, and his mother taught him how to read and shared her love of classics with him. So he loves libraries too, and when he was 16, he paid a visit to a library in Manitowoc, a town based on Montauk, that he never forgot. 4 decades later, Guy became the man on the train. A married commuter who takes the Metro North every day from Scarsdale, where he lives, to Grand Central, where he works. On the Metro North, he's about to meet a beautiful stranger, and will start living a secret life. Until the morning his wife, Linda, a Manhattan assistant district attorney, receives a visit from the police. Apparently, her husband is the prime suspect in a murder, and he's disappeared. In her search for answers, Linda travels to the East End of Long Island with an ex-cop who's in London. They search to find out what went on many years ago on the abandoned rooftop of an abandoned lighthouse, where 4 decades earlier, a terrible crime took place, culminating in a murder that was never solved. Without further ado, the man on the train. See if they get my glasses on. It was as if time had stopped when the body was dragged from the ocean. The intervening years erased, the clock frozen on the moment that shattered the tranquility of their sleepy hamlet all those years ago. Folks rushing to the beach the minute the news hit, the onlookers gathering at the shoreline, awaiting their first glimpse of the victim. Same as back then. Not that everyone remembered. Some folks had died or moved away. For those who remained, it was too long ago, memory being what it is, or never was. Stories changed. People changed. What happened back then filtered through the distorted lens of grief, regret, anger, and guilt. Of course, there were differences between the two tragedies. The time of year, for one thing. Back in '84, it was one of those nights you waited for all summer. Stars filling the sky, the moon casting a shimmering golden light on the ocean, waves lapping gently on the shore, a perfect backdrop to the most anticipated event of the season. The beach packed with people, mostly teenagers on the cusp of adulthood. They were among the first to reach the scene. In contrast, tonight was dark and cold. No stars in the leaden sky, a harbinger of the storm predicted to arrive tomorrow. The holiday season had just ended, leaving everyone with nothing to look forward to but the rest of the long, bleak winter. That didn't stop townsfolk from bundling up and coming out in droves, despite the inhospitable weather. A hush fell over the crowd as a medical examiner made his lumbering way across the snow-covered sand. The same forensics expert who gave the official cause of death in the '84 case, now 4 decades older and slowed by arthritis and gout. Gasps of recognition went up and down the street, up and down the beach, when the waterlogged corpse was laid on the sand and everyone got a good look at the victim's face. A face many thought they'd never see again, which only deepened the mystery and set minds racing about the meaning of this shocking turn of events. Questions once again on everyone's lips. questions that had never been answered. All these years later, no one really knew what happened up there. The best anyone could say for sure was that when the night was over, somebody was dead. And now death had claimed another one of their own. The crowd parted to make way for the chief of police, who just pulled up in his four-wheel Jeep. As he and the medical examiner conferred over the corpse, a silent question rose up from the crowd. Would this new tragedy bring resolution or bury the truth forever? Part 1. The 804 was pulling into the station. When the train stopped, the lines of commuters surged forward in perfect synchronicity, gliding across the platform as one. The same dance they've been doing for decades. Guy tucked his newspaper under his arm and hitched his book bag higher on his shoulder as he moved with the other passengers toward the train doors, giving a nod here, a smile there, as they spied those who'd shared his daily ride for years. When the doors opened, it was every man and woman for themselves. Once aboard, Guy was shocked to spot an open window seat. The coveted aisle seats were already gone, of course. Legroom at a premium aboard the early morning express to Grand Central. A window was the next best thing, a hell of a lot better than the cramped middle seat where he'd been forced to sit on more than one occasion. He moved quickly, elbowing his way past passengers on the hunt for seats until he reached the third row. After he'd settled into his seat, he unfolded the newspaper and opened to the local section. He'd barely got through the first article when the words on the page started to blur together. He leaned back against the headrest. At night, he'd fallen into the habit of staying up late reading in his study, only to startle awake, the book open in his lap. After going upstairs and getting into bed, careful to not disturb his sleeping wife, he would lie there, heart pounding, mind racing, asking the profound, disturbing questions that seemed to plague him more and more lately, and always seemed to come in a dead night. Like, what the hell was he doing with his life? Commuting every day to a job he began to hate more and more, feeling trapped, wondering if this was it, all there was. He heard the doors closing. As the train started to move, the motion of the wheels lulled him. He felt his lids growing heavy. His eyes drifted closed. He was standing in front of a door. He wanted to move, but it was as if he were frozen in place. "Excuse me." Guy opened his eyes. A woman was standing next to his robe. "Is this seat taken?" She was indicating the middle seat, where Guy had tossed his book bag after settling in at the window. He murmured an apology and removed the offending bag, trying to shake off the last vestiges of sleep. He realized he was staring as she settled into her seat. He tried to cover his embarrassment by asking if she had enough room, which was a stupid question, given that she'd already lowered the armrest that separated their seats. She nodded, and he quickly glanced away. He retreated once again behind his paper, but he was distracted. As the train picked up speed, he glanced at his phone. He was surprised to see that 15 minutes had passed since they left the station. More than half the ride was over. He could have sworn he heard the doors closing as he started to nod off. So where had the woman come from? Another car. That must be it. She'd probably been moving from car to car until she found an empty seat. Maybe she was new to commuting, which made sense because he didn't recall having seen her before. And she was someone he would have remembered. I'd like to go on, but it was hard picking different chapters and passages because you have favorites, but then you don't know how much to reveal, but should you get people interested by starting with the opening? And then there was the wife's chapter, so I'll leave everyone to read the book and then they can read a little more and find out the answers to the questions that were never answered years ago. So if anyone has questions or comments.
I'll start.
You'll start. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
where did you take your inspiration for this book?
Well, that's a question I'm often asked. And that's when I start on my actress monologue, which is that as an actress, everything is character. And so for me, it starts with a voice talking to me. In the case of my debut novel, it was an 11-year-old orphan living in the South, and also the adult version of her as a sheriff. That went back in prison. In my second book, First Victim, it was a female judge, and in The Man on the Train, it was the man on the train guy. He came to me full-fledged, and it was my first male character. And I knew who he was right away, and I knew his name. I knew his first and last name. So it's always character, and then the stories, it started in my mind with him on a train, rushing for the train. He was late for the train. And it kind of started from there, and then, when you're writing a thriller, then you have to figure out what's happening in the past, and you have to weave it all together. But I'd like to start with character and see where they take me, and then go back and start working on all the reveals and twists and turns, which comes out of their behavior, of course. So that's the long-winded answer to your question. Who starts with character? Yes. Oh, I thought you raised your hand.
No.
It was just a reflex. Julie, yes.
Do you have somebody talking to you now in the book? Do you find enough? Do you have another book?
Yes. Thank you for asking me that. My next book is actually an idea for a series, and I was going to ask everyone if they prefer standalones to series, or I'll ask quickly. How many of you prefer series to standalones? A lot of people. Okay, so this is an idea for a series, unlike the other 3 books, and it's set in Florida. So I need somebody on death row.
No.
And I'm here, so I'm using the areas I know, in this area of town. So I'm very excited about that. And the character is a criminal defense attorney. I usually have an attorney son. Yeah, my husband Ted is a criminal defense attorney. Thank you, Julie. And that's why Linda in Man on the Train's a prosecutor. Alice is a judge in First Victim. And now in the new book, she's a criminal defense attorney in New York City. And she's drawn back to her past in Florida. And that's with my agent right now, and while in the first book. And while I'm waiting to hear, I've started a book set in the theater because my editor said, since you're an actress, could you set a book in the theater? Which poses all sorts of challenges because you've got theater, which is not real life. Is it real life? But it's like, it's very exciting. So in that case, she's an actress that started talking to me. And yeah.
It's a series of the 3 did you say, or did you say how many did you get?
It's hard to say. Like, I know for Saving Grace, I want to write a sequel, but that's not a series because I left some loose ends. But I guess series can be ongoing, right? The characters can age and it can go on for years. Yeah. So I think, I have ideas for other books in both series. It's very different from writing a standalone because you're really with this character and you want readers to like the character, so they'll continue reading the series. So, yes. What's your name? Marcia. Hi, Marcia.
I don't know a lot about your background, but I know that you were a copywriter for a couple of publishing houses. So how did you come to the decision that you wanted to write, and how did you first go about getting yourself, into that mode and the genre that you would write with them and the go for?
So I'll start with saying I was a reader. Thank you for that question, which I did. All writers have to be readers. And my mother only had mysteries in the house. So everything's exposure. So I couldn't wait to get my hands on the Nancy Drew mysteries. So I was always into mysteries and psychological suspense. And I wanted to be a writer. Actually, this is funny. When I was 8 years old, I wrote a 200-page book about an orphan girl. And it wasn't Grace, but it's amazing that I wrote this. But I didn't do anything with it. But I always wanted to write. And then I took a detour into theater because I love theater. So I did acting for a few years, but I was always rewriting my lines. So eventually I started writing plays. And then I became a reader for agents. And I didn't want to be an agent. I wanted to be the talent. So I was thinking, well, what can I do now? Maybe I'll write a Harlequin romance, even though I never read romance. So I went to a bookstore, and there was a woman looking at the Harlequin books, and I didn't want this woman to think I would just read romance. I just want to write them. Well, we start talking, and her sister's associate publisher at Harlequin, and said they need back cover writers. I said, what? You mean I could get paid? Those like back covers? Oh my God. So I met her sister. She picked up with paperback and ripped the back cover off and said, write a back cover. Which is a synopsis, but it's to get readers to buy it with a really punchy headline, and you have a word count. Started doing that. She said, I think you have a future. You should make compile a book of all the covers and bring them to all the publishing houses, which I did. And I started freelancing for all the major publishers in New York. And then Kensington, a small family-owned house, offered me a job as their first copy director. They'd never had one. So I took the job, and I worked there for a few years. And then I was offered a job at Penguin. And there I had a staff and freelancers, and it was, 100 books a month, and imprints open. It's a lot to do. And, you're writing all this great cover copy for best-selling authors and typing and doing whatever you have to do, and go on, just write my own book. So I wrote Saving Grace, and it took me many years because I was working full-time, and when you don't have an agent, it can take forever. And I sent it around, and that got me an agent and a publishing deal. And that's how I feel like I've come full circle because I love books. And you can do so much more with books than plays because you have thoughts and descriptions, and it's very exciting. So that's how, and I know it was an interesting way I got into writing, but that's why I'm character driven from the acting days. And I think it's the characters you remember in books, right? Isn't that what matters the most? The characters, I've met so many thriller authors. So many women are writing thrillers now, not just domestic suspense, but thrillers. And everyone works differently, but some authors start with a twist, the big reveal, and then create characters around it. And I can't work that way because it has to come from the character. So in some ways it's hard because you want the twist to come out of the behavior. So the reader will say, aha, that's why that happened. So yeah, but thrillers pose an interesting challenge because you have to construct a good plot. A lot of work. Thank you for that question. Yes, your name?
Holly.
Hi, Holly. I think we've met before. Have you been to the library?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
I have a few questions. First question is, who do you read? What authors do you like to read?
I like to read a book that's well written. That being said, I'm often asked to blurb other authors, so of course I like Michael Connelly, who's nice enough to give me a blurb, Jeffrey Deaver, Megan Miranda, Joseph Binder, of course. Oh my God, there's so many I read who are wonderful. Liz Moore, God of the Woods, it's out now. You probably read that. Or Long Bright River, which is on Netflix right now, or now on Peacock. As long as it's a great, wonderfully written thing. Yeah. Do you have favorite authors? Are you a suspense lover?
Pretty much the same as yours.
Yeah. I mean, there are more. I can text you later, give you more names, because a lot of women now are that. Plotters plot everything out. Some of them have a whole storyboard, like Hitchcock used to do for his films. Others fly by the seat of their pants and see where their characters take them. I like to write that way, but then you have to make sure what happens now. You're not just writing a day in the life of like a Virginia Woolf book. You have to then have suspense and mystery. So I didn't bring it as a drug. I used to work with a recorder this big and speak into it wherever I was, because if I was at the gym or walking and I didn't have my pen, it was terrible. I have to run back and get it. So I started talking into a recorder. But then I'd have to input everything from the recorder, which wasn't the actual writing yet. And then all these other thoughts would come. It would take me forever to even sit down to start writing. So, and the recorder broke. So, but I'm not one of those writers who can just sit at the computer and start. There are many writers who you see a book a year, and the first draft you're seeing is what they're writing, and that's it. Yeah, and especially when they have to write a book a year, which many publishers want, it's very hard. So I now talk into my phone, which gets a lot of words wrong, unfortunately. And I know there are programs where you can have it appear on your screen, but what I do is then I send it to myself and I have more notes. And when I finally get ready to sit down and start writing, more things happen because you're in the moment. It's organic. And you want to be in the moment, which you learn as an actor. And you want your characters to be in the moment. So then you would start writing, and that's the first draft. So it takes a long time to get a book written. And then you can keep working on it. Publisher says, okay, here's the deadline. You'd like to keep working. And I try to write every day. I don't always. There are writers who always say, I have to write 1,000 words a day. I don't quite work that way, and that's maybe 2-3 pages. But I feel if I'm at least thinking and plotting. And I know some friends of mine there from seeing me on Singer Island that they always see me walking back and forth because I'm plotting and thinking. So I feel like that's working. Some days it's a lot of hours, some days a few. Books giving me a hard time. Sometimes I'll take a step away. But I do try to think about it every day. And that gets the mind going. And that gets you working. It's like a discipline. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any more questions?
So how is that working when you've got two different books that you're doing at the same time, a theater-based one and then a new series-based one?
It's hard. And the theater one's really hard because it's theater. It's the theater. So if you were seeing something on the stage, it wouldn't be the same as reading about it in a book, because you know that everything happening on the stage is real. So it's sort of, and you could actually, if it were on the screen and you saw the different settings, you could think that's real, but on the stage you always know it's not. So that's a real challenge. And the series set in Florida was a lot easier. And the first book's done. And I have an idea for the second book, but it's so much easier because it's a courtroom and it's people. So the theater book's really giving me quite a challenge. It's exciting, but it's there's a lot you can do. So it is. I know what you're saying. It's a little schizophrenic. You have different characters, different books, and you want to keep them separate. But sometimes you get an idea for one, and you'll jot it down, and then you get an idea for the other one. But yes, it's a challenge. It's all a challenge. I mean, this is a nice part. I come out of my cave or wherever I am because I spend most of my time at home. That's Ted will attest, writing. I don't even go out that much anymore. I'm too busy writing. I used to go to the theater occasionally with my girlfriend. We go to dinner. Julie and I finally had lunch. But basically I'm home all the time. And when I have events, then I put on makeup and get dressed and go out. So I'm like living in that world, which is, it's exciting, but it's, you're living with your characters. So what does Ted always say? Your characters are sitting on your computer, everyone waiting for you. They're waiting.
We all wait. I get up earlier, so I see them. I wake her up and say, they're waiting for you.
It's true. You can't keep them waiting there. There's a great absurdist play, if any of you like plays, by Pirandello, called 6 Characters in Search of an Author. It's quite a play. It's a family trapped in a frozen moment in time, and they approach an acting group, and they want the acting group to tell their story. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Yes, Julie.
I've got a question she was asking about, where you were also talking about being on the screen and things. Anybody, would you ever have this, a TV show, and if it was for a movie? I mean, is there any possibility of any of those things?
Well, I have a Hollywood agent who represents Michael Connelly and Lisa Moriarty, among others.
Okay.
And he's got the books out there. And you could have your book optioned, and then you could sit for 3-4 years till something finally gets made. But yes, he's out there.
And we were also almost going to fly out.
Yeah, so wait, we were going to go out to LA this winter.
Just before.
And just before the wildfires, oh my God. Oh my God. We were, yeah, I couldn't get out of the lease.
Oh, well, I couldn't get out of the lease. That's good because you do want to be at the camp. I didn't know this.
We were supposed to go. I mean, I don't know that I had to be there, but sometimes it's good to be there.
Huh?
Because then you're in the milieu and you can see Regent and, do all that. But what's it meant to be?
Wow.
That was unbelievable.
Those are blindfolded.
One week.
Yeah, we were really all set.
I need to wait several years. We picked them up before.
Isn't it? So is that something you think of doing again?
I don't know. We're talking about it.
Depends on
Well, that again.
Yeah.
It depends. I just want to be in the writer's room writing for other shows, other TV shows, which many writers do. I really just wanted to build my own books. So I'm not sure that I have to necessarily be there. I mean, Michael Powell moved to Malibu only recently. He wasn't even, because he likes to be on the set. He doesn't have to be. But it's exciting, I guess, too. He waited 30 years to see this character, finally. And that's a long time. And same with Lisa Gard or somebody else under that. It's a long process, especially and with what's going on out there now, it's different. Things are different. So I have to just give my agent, New York agent, said just keep writing your books. And me. Mostly. I mean, I do very well writing in Florida. Are most people here from Florida? Are you originally from Florida or have some transplants? Where are you from? You? Yeah. Well, I'm from Virginia. Oh. They did grow up down here. Oh, you did? Yeah. So almost. Yes. And I've met a lot of people come here from New Jersey, New York, and many people from Florida. Chicago, Julie's from Wisconsin.
Canada.
A lot of Canadians.
A lot of Canadians. I don't know now, they don't like this. See, I know a few that have left and said they're not coming yet. So I'm the.
Yes.
I was thinking about, we were thinking about that. Really, you're very character driven, and that's what drives your novel, because what you were saying. And you think how great, like you said, you think of the character and that person develops for you. Do you have, in your books, favorite characters that you find easier to write about? And sometimes have to just put that character aside and say, now I may not like this character, but I have to work on this character. Is that difficult?
That can get some attention. That's a good question. Yeah, I guess I could say my main characters are my favorite characters, but yes, you always have to have the bad guys in the books. That's true. I guess I feel very close to the main character. Like I felt so close to Mary Grace Dobbs. That's why I wanted to receive it. Especially that she was an 11-year-old alternating with her as an adult. So I felt like very close to her. And then some of the girls in her class, well, some were nice and some weren't. And she has a daughter, and then she has an undersheriff. I don't think the other characters are harder to write because they're in my psyche as well, and I kind of feel I know who they are. So when I write what they're doing and saying, I understand them. I guess it's understanding your characters. I'm thinking of this now as we're talking, that it actually doesn't matter if they're the sympathetic or the bad guys or not. I think, especially if you're understanding your characters and what drives them. But I'm going to think about that if there was in First Victim, I felt very close to the Judge Alice, because it's narrated from Alice's point of view, her grown daughter and her best friend from childhood. But there's a real bad guy in that book. And that took a while to get that right because, when you're dealing with pure evil, and you're not going into the point of view necessarily of that character, which you could. And that's also a decision that you might find interesting as to which points of view you go into the character.
Yeah.
And what makes you choose. And third person versus first. I'll tell you something interesting. In Saving Grace, because she came to me as an 11-year-old orphan, she came to me in first person, meaning I did this, I did that. In her adult incarnation, it's also first person, but present tense. And people had asked me they just came to me that way. In First Victim, the judge was first person, And my editor said, make her third person, because you have two other points of view. And that ended up working for me, because I was afraid maybe I'd be distanced if it was she rather than I. But I still felt as close to her. And the man on the train, they're all third person. I don't know if it's because Guy was a guy. But it worked with him in third person, and Linda, his wife, is third person, and there's one or two other characters, a cop and some others third person. So I don't know if third person removes you a little, but especially when someone is very evil. But it's interesting also because I'm researching that now in my mind of going into the first person psyche of someone like really not who you think, but not who you think they are necessarily. But so that's all so fascinating to me. So fascinating. Yes. What's your name?
Lois.
I love
I
it.
hadn't read the book, but this 11-year-old book in the action. Did you know 11-year-old book?
No. And people have asked me that because she's in a Baptist town in the South.
So it was what you imagined it would be like being.
That's a very good question. I did a book club this week, and someone said to me, you know, I'm a jogger, and you have your judge jogging around the reservoir in New York. Do you do that? And I said, no. I went to the reservoir. She said, yeah, but you get how I feel, and you get my energy. And I'm like, how do you do that? And so this is similar to that in that, you know, it's like children play cowboys and Indians. You believe utterly in the reality of what you're doing. That's why they say as an actor you should have the childlike innocence of children. I feel like I'm this person because I'm just inside her psyche. And because she started talking to me and walking around her town, the town's called Repentance in Arkansas, in Northwest Arkansas, and she's showing me things, and she's going to this cave, and I know she's miserable because her parents died, and she wants to be alone. And so because I knew her voice, I felt like I knew her and I was her, in a way. So it wasn't that I knew someone, because there wasn't that barrier between me and the character of someone I knew. It was just like, I felt like, without being too esoteric, it was like, I was filtered through her somehow, because I had her voice so in my head, so clear. And this boy comes to the cave, and she doesn't want him there, and he's bothering her, and he has a voice, and the more I wrote, the more I knew him.
It's just that an orphan versus a person who's not an orphan. It is so hard to imagine. It would be trying to explain to someone what it's like to be a parent who's never been a parent. There's a point at which that person can't reach the depths you're reaching. And so you having met up in an orphan and not, maybe one day if your best friend was an orphan or something like that, you have an inroad into the psyche, but to not really create an orphan where you had no great reference other than you felt that. I wondered how you felt.
That, yeah, I know someone else at the book club asked me, because she said they'd get to the mind of a murderer or if you've never killed me or done this or that. I just, you know, emotions are also universal, and the grief she feels, and she also feels guilt. And I felt all these emotions in her, all these conflicting emotions, because she had her own, you know, there's always guilt attendant in so many things. And grief, and both of them dying at the same time. And she's living now with her uncle and cousin, and, you know, not that warm or loving. And I just felt how she would feel. I just felt, I felt her pain. I understand what you're saying. So I'll share something with you. I don't have children. So I do a lot, and there are parents and children in my books. And there's especially a mother-daughter. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who's a psychologist. And I said, I have to get this right. Because Louisa, my editor, said, you nailed the mother-daughter. I couldn't believe it. But before she said that, I said to my psychiatrist friend, you know, I don't know, because I'm not a mother. So how would I feel? She said, but you had a mother. Mm-hmm. And I never forgot that. So whatever, there's so much you can feel between family, mothers, fathers. And I write a lot about parents and children. And so you might say, well, why do you write so much about parents and children? Who knows what is going on in the psyches that made us do that? But I just, it's almost a universality of emotion too. Yes, Ted may have an answer. He has such good answers to things.
Well, no, I want to make it short answer. I think that I understand your point, but I also understand Debbie, so many years. Part of the answer I would like is for her to is how.
Here's a hard one.
And is talent is as big in the universe. It depends how you use it, and what your ability to translate what's in your mind onto the page, the way you write the words, the way she puts her words together, the way she tells her story. There's a talent there. And you can see it in a young piano player who plays at Carnegie Hall, who's 14 years old. They play Beethoven like they were born to play Beethoven. And when you get to that level, not that this is Beethoven speaking here, but when you get to that point where you have that kind of talent, which Debbie clearly has demonstrated over the years, these things come almost intuitive because she's in her element. And when you're in your element, things happen kind of like miraculous, don't happen necessarily in regular life.
Well, I applaud you for your element.
That's all I can do.
Somebody else's different, and that's it.
I've lived with it long enough. I've
Live
seen.
with people that I really know, so strangers.
Wow.
That's like weird something.
Well, we were both actors, both in the theater many years back, so we have the commonality of imagination, and we see things similarly that way. Not all things we see similarly, but that way. And I know how she's developed over the years. Watched her writing skills and the work product, and how it's connected to people, larger groups of people over time. It's been a beautiful journey to watch her journey. I have my own journey, which is separate, but I love watching hers.
You must be wonderful.
Only if I eat dinner well.
And he likes to eat at a certain time.
I'm a very early eater, so
Well,
what's up with that?
Well, I get up. Well, the good thing about that is I go to bed earlier and I get up earlier to write, and it's actually a better lifestyle for me. Going to bed earlier and it's different sleep you get, and it's just better. So much as I like to stay up, and I used to stay up late, and I watch some of those streaming mystery shows, it's always good to go to bed early. In Florida, it's easy. You have the early bird dinner.
Yeah, man, it's not like Manhattan. There's not that many early birds.
Oh my God, I know.
You think someone's everywhere.
Very true. Very true. Thank you for that. And it's actually sometimes hard to know. You're just writing and you're in your character and in the moment. So it's hard to always know or explain. But that's very good. It started at the book club with someone saying, "Well, how do you get in the mind of a murderer or this or that?" And I guess imagining also. And you might have readers who say, "Well, I don't believe that." You're imagining it, but maybe it's, you never know what people will react. Or if they're in a specific profession and say, "Well, that's not how," I think if you get the characters' emotions and their things you can relate to, you're not an orphan, are you? Yes.
No, which is why I know very difficult for me, but I did know one. So that one would be a road for me again. And in the case of whoever the psychologist said, "Well, you had a mother," you were also into a crime. It's a twofold thing, so that there's something in me about writing that somebody who doesn't have the sense of parents that the greater population takes for granted. It's a whole different
like mom.
Yeah, it must be.
I never should.
Oh, it's got to be, absolutely. And she's an only child, and it's interesting in that in Saving Grace and First Victim, the main characters are both only children. And and same with Guy Kingston and his wife Linda. And I don't know why that is, but it just is. But the book set in Florida is the first book where siblings and having sisters and brothers, and that just, for some reason, that came to me that way. But the others didn't have any siblings, so now we have a whole other, because family seems to be something I focus on a lot. Parents and children, and who knows what makes us, drives us to write what we write. It's true. You're gonna have to not think about it. Well, if I think about it too much, it might affect me. But that's good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yes. What's your name?
Bonnie.
Moni?
Bonnie.
Bonnie. Hi.
Do you ever meet somebody and then say to yourself, I've got to put this person in my book, or I can use this person, or whatever, situation there?
A lot of writers are asked that. I don't know if that's ever happened to me, although sometimes someone will say something I find really interesting and I'll say, I'm going to steal that. But it doesn't usually end up in a book because it has to fit the character and the time and what they're doing. But I don't think that's happened to me. And a lot of writers are asked that they meet someone who's in. Have I ever told you that? I'm trying to think if I ever have met someone I've done, oh my God, this person has to be in the book. But the cop, Mike Boniger, your man on the train, I don't know if I knew him, Mike, but they reminded me of a lot of those small town.
Talking about actors and actresses could play the parts.
Yes. There's someone on Instagram who makes a movie of all our talks and he puts the whole cast on Instagram. That's how he would cast it. But the other thing is I do tend to favor small towns, even though I live in New York City after a year. And I do tend to write about small towns.
All that out.
Yeah, see, that's one of my favorite plays of all time. Howard Hill.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And that's those monologues, and that was about emotion, family, but I mean,
Hit everybody like.
really? You never told me that.
Or the one is not looking.
How do you tell me that?
Can't tell you too much. I don't want to get. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I will say that in New York City, I kind of make things into small, like neighborhoods, I make into my small towns. I know the owner and the names of everyone in the stores. I guess it makes you more comfortable somehow, right? And you relate to people, and I don't know, I just find it much easier to know, and you want to know their names. I mean, how could you treat people you see every day as strangers? That would be strange to me. No. But yeah, that's interesting. I would have to think about that. Maybe I can write that. Write a new hour town. Try to get into the theater book somehow. Oh my God. Any other questions? Yes.
I wanted to ask a question about dialogue. Do you find it difficult to deal with dialogue? Do you just write it intrinsically, or do you have a methodology when you write dialogue?
I think from being an actress and a playwright, I hear the rhythms in speech, and it comes very naturally to me to write dialogue. There's a rhythm, and even if someone's speaking how many words, it ends where it should because of how it sounds. It's almost musical, like a symphony. So yes, dialogue does come naturally. Now, my editor has said for some writers it doesn't. And she says to them, when you write your dialogue, speak it out loud and make sure it doesn't sound wooden or hard to pronounce or ridiculous. But I hear it in my head. I knew you. What's your name?
Andy?
Hi, Andy. Have you been at other libraries? You look familiar too.
No.
Okay.
How do you know it's time to stop thinking about the story of the character and just not lie?
That's a great question. Never. It's hard because sometimes I also tell people that many of my books are 10 books. Because sometimes I start and I think I better start. I just have to go with this now. And then it either won't or something else comes to me. And you have to at some point say, look, I could do so many things with this story, like Clue. You could have so many, that movie that had different endings. You have to at some point, sometimes you know. I think sometimes, with the theater book, it's been harder because there's so much you can do. I do tend to know the other books, but sometimes there does come a point we have to say, look, go this way. You might start writing though and realize it's not going the way it might need to, even if you don't know it ends. I know that sounds a little strange, but are you a writer?
Want it me?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were. Yeah, and is fiction is what interests you?
Yep, fiction. I've been thinking about a series for several years about the characters.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Sitting down and knowing how enough.
But did you take notes or is it just on your head?
I plotted a little bit, but most of the time it's them in my head.
And what's the reason you haven't started? Like to get you sit down and actually write?
I'm just really badly disciplined with writing.
I'm sorry?
I'm badly disciplined with writing.
Oh.
He needs Ted there to
Yeah, he'll be your cheerleader. He'll be your cheerleader. Just start, I'll tell you something, if I keep it in my head and don't jot it down, sometimes I forget. And that's really like I'll have a great line or something and I'll forget. And I don't want to forget it, so I have to run and write it down quickly. Yeah, but the recorder broke, 2 of them broke, and I was writing in there, but I can't get out of it. So that really scared me. I'm told there are programs that will put it right on your screen, right on your computer screen. But what I'll say to you is just jot some of it down and just help how just do it. Just make yourself do, because you have this idea for series.
No.
And you have the calendar. And there's so much bad writing out there. Bad democracy. We need great books. And might have one there, and no one's gonna know.
No. I'll give it a shot.
Oh, please. I'll give you a card with my email. Let me know. Like, we could communicate. And I'll tell you all the problems I've had with the theater bar. Maybe I'll make it a play instead of a musical. Somebody had a question. That's not, but I saw an answer. Had you have anything else to ask?
I don't want to be here all day.
Well, thank you all for coming. If you have any other questions or want me to sign books? Those are the 2. I'm going to say if there's anything I wanted to leave you with. I guess not. I guess I've told you my journey, my writing process. It's hard. I know what I want to ask. If there are any other writers or would-be writers in the room besides you, but I thought you were. Any others? Okay. So why do you come to the library? Why do you come to events? Does anyone want to tell me?
And meet people.
Yes. What's your name?
Mitch,
Hi, Mitch.
the 2 of us come to the library all the time, different speakers, just to learn about different subjects, learn about the backgrounds of different writers. I have 2 or 3 authors I like, and that's it. I don't read much, but my wife's reading almost a book a day.
Oh my God! Do you read the book or listen to them? Read. Yeah, I can't listen. I have to read them. So who are your 2 or 3 favorite authors? The only authors I see one. I saw
One
one.
that passed away, it really bothered me. Amazingly, all these people are getting noticed.
And they're good.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And who else do you like?
Carl Dyson was from here.
Oh, Carl, of course.
Yeah, he and my mama book.
Jonathan or Faye?
No, Faye,
Oh.
his wife.
I used to do all her slot copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone will talk about him and not her. She's very good.
I didn't like Kim, but I made sure.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, she hasn't written
No, Kim doesn't.
recently.
It walked out.
Really good. Now, do you read more male authors? Because women will read male authors, but a lot of men
I
will
don't
not.
like it. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, as long as it's a good book.
Mhm.
Well, that's good to know. It's nice to know we have readers, and you read a book a day. That's why you
Well, I'm
want.
exaggerating, but.
That's why you want to know some of them. I have to send you some names. So, do you have some favorite authors?
Schooling.
Who did you say? Did you tell me?
I like Dennis Lehane.
Oh my God, he's a poet. Yes, he's amazing.
And Conley, Baldacci.
right? Do you like, did you ever read Richard Roth Patterson? He doesn't write anymore.
Guys, I think it's,
Not James Patterson.
I feel like,
I don't like Richard Roth. I'm trying to think of something now. Now I'm going blank. Scott Turow.
yeah.
I haven't read his new book, presumed. And you have? Good?
Yeah, so I was like, so I always wanted this best book. I like it because it's like nonfiction / fiction to me. The way you are.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. If I feel as though I'm in the foreground with that, and it's almost like when I read fiction, and I can say it was story in fiction, and his is also. But I just feel like I'm right there reading because I'm just writing to be very concise, clear, and very sharply cut.
Wow. Oh, I can't wait to read it. I watched the series on TV and saw the movie of Presumed Innocent. Yeah, they changed. Oh, I know what did anyone read Defending Jacob?
Yeah.
Which, William Landay. Oh my God. That's a few years. It was a series. They changed the ending. But Julia should be Defending Jacob. It's really good.
Do you interface any with international authors?
Sure.
I mean, I'm not. She does write thrillers with me, like Louise Petty, but there's
Yes. Yes, she's wonderful. Wonderful. They you meet them at conferences, which is nice. Although I'm not going to the conference, Henry's going to Washington. Yes.
I like the Richard Osman series, the Thursday Murder Club. There's a movie coming out this year for the first book, so that'll be fun.
And why do you like these books?
It's almost akin to me going towards a cozy a little bit, so what I like about cozies is often a small town and atmosphere, sometimes quirky characters, and, that English sense of humor. I mean, some people don't like it, but, I enjoy, humor that arises naturally, not when someone's trying to be funny, but, creates, a situation and you sometimes just laugh out loud because, it's definitely part of the story, but it's definitely funny.
Yeah, a lot of people think his books are fabulous. He's been getting rave reviews. And I know it's going to be a movie. I'm always interested because I don't write cozies, but I thought about them because they're small towns and you learn something in a cozy. I guess you like that you learn about a place or a profession or something. Yeah, I know. Yes, what's your name?
I'm Celeste.
Hi, Celeste.
First of all, I might apologize for coming in late. Got stuck in traffic. I'm not familiar with your writing. 2 questions. How many books have you written? And which book would you recommend as your absolute favorite for a first-time reader?
Oh, it's a hard one. I have 3 published right now. It's hard because Saving Grace was my first. And I got to spend so many years on it. And it's got echoes of To Kill a Mockingbird, so it's literary in the sense that it takes its time. Mary Grace Dobson's a special place in my heart, the author and her mother, the mother. And it's hard to say. The Judge and First Victim, I really feel for her. That's a faster paced book. And The Man on the Train reads down the track, and that it's hard to say because they're all so, I feel so close to all of them. And they're all,
Recap them all, so that was good.
yeah, I mean, and you don't have to start with one, though. You don't have to start with the first necessarily, because you've done a series. So, I would say any of them to start with, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming.
This is so enjoyable.
Thank you, I really enjoyed what you're a great audience, too. It was fun to read and answer, and I always learn so much. I always hear questions I haven't heard. Yes.
I was wondering, you seem to have characters from all different ages. Would you ever think about writing about baby boomers?
That's interesting. How old would they be now? About
70. No, there's a group in the...
in the group in the Oscars. My editor said, "Can you write a book about senior citizens solving murders? They're so big now." It's hard for me to, just come up with. I could come up with an idea and do it, but I hadn't really thought about it. But she did mention that to me, And there's a group of women, older women, who kill people. Well, I forgot what it's called. It's a series out there. It's the second book out now. It's supposed to be funny.
Is it the
They're like hired killers.
Deanna Rayburn?
Yes, Deanna Rayburn.
Something assassins or something like that?
Yeah, they're senior citizens too, and they kill. Yeah. So, maybe I should think about that. Get on the bandwagon. Would you like to read about senior citizens? How many people want to read about senior citizens? Like that. If you want. Oh my goodness. Thank you for asking me that, though. Any other questions? This is a great group today. I wish I could remember all the questions. Well, you got it down, so y'all know how to feel a little there. Thank you, Kendra. She's my videographer, and you're my photographer. Well, thank you.